Okay, check it. Welcome back to another Blackbook session. This is a quick burner I laid down for fellow writer Flo. It's a very unique way of spelling it, so enjoy the breakdown. I kicked off the sketch with a light pink Sharpie and started working on the F. I didn't really struggle with the base of it since I've had plenty of time to work with this letter. I added a little arrow stemming from the left, and that was pretty much it. I then kicked off the A and had some rhythm flowing with it and its base. This is another letter I'm real familiar with. What I used to write used to start with the F and A, so it was cool to bring back that flow real quick and real simple. I moved on to the L and gave it some rhythm too, you know? It had a nice little flow towards the bottom with some kicks coming out of it like I always do. Finally, I started laying down the O. I wanted this letter flowing with the A, so I gave it very similar attributes, such as the almost diamond shaped look, as well as the arrow, except since this was the end of the burner, I had it pointing the opposite way from the first one. Once I had the letters down, I started spreading some deep cuts throughout the letters. Then I added these whips that were intended to look as if they're falling off of the letter, yet still part of it. I added those details on the top left and right of the letters. I noticed the letters weren't centered and it kind of bugged me, I'm not gonna front. That was the sketch right there. I also want to mention real quick that for some of these Blackbook sessions, I don't use pencil. For some though, I do. I have a little black book that I use to sketch on my free time. I find myself getting writer's block at times when I just start off with a marker, so I think it's really important to sketch with a pencil. With that being said, I'll start to introduce that process from time to time and break it down. I started filling in using the light pink Sharpie. I filled in parts of the letters and left some parts unfilled. I had zigzags flowing onto the unfilled areas of the letters. Honestly, at this point of the filling though, I looked at the burner and I thought to myself that it looked all tropical. So to get rid of that image in my head, I came in with a darker value of the pink and filled in areas that had been left unfilled with the Sharpie. I was glad to fill in those areas, you know? Using the skin pastel Molotov, I placed some details inside of the letters. These details are little filled in bars or rectangles that go inside of some of your areas. They take up some space inside of your filling, but that's kind of the point. This detail is very traditional. I've seen plenty of writers use it. With the Sahara beige pastel Molotov, I implemented some other details. These ran alongside the inside of the letters with the flow of their structure. I'm pretty sure I picked up these details from my cousin. I will see him use it a lot. I don't think I've seen too many writers use these specific details. Of course, I could be wrong though. These are tight though. They're kind of like speed lines. I've been slacking on implementing these on my burners. I'ma change that though. I started sketching my 3D using a light blue Prisma marker. I had my 3D going southeast to take up space on the right side of the page. I saw that area a little empty, so I set the width of the 3D about half an inch long. I decided to practice that method I mentioned in Blackbook session number 13. I want to get real familiar with adding my 3D before my outline. I have a feeling this is going to help me experiment with details inside of my 3D, instead of always filling it in completely, as well as worrying about the colors smearing with each other if there's an outline already. I moved on and used a true blue Prisma marker to actually fill in most of the inside of the 3D I had sketched. I left certain areas of the 3D empty though, to bring in those rectangular slots that are flowing with the 3D. And then I filled in those rectangular slots with the light blue Prisma marker I initially started the 3D with, to have two colors flowing inside of the 3D. Having some form of detail in your 3D on a burner or a piece will always make it look better. I started adding some light orange bubbles that went around and behind the letters. The bubbles were around half an inch, half a quarter big. By the time I realized, I felt like I got carried away and added too many bubbles. I felt like there were too many humps going around, so I left some areas by the edges of the letters alone. I came in with the darker orange and filled in those gaps that had been left, and added a couple more bubbles to ease the light orange bubbles. I always come in with some little extra bubbles around the bigger ones. It's a dope effect. I finally gave in and started implementing my outline onto my letters using a good old black Sharpie. Adding the outline was a relief. I felt the colors real vibrant. I wanted something to tame them, to ground them. I do feel like I need to try my best to implement new outline schemes though, to get out of that comfort zone that I'm in. I'm always using black. I added the outline to my 3D as well, and once I did this, I noticed it. how smooth and clean the 3D looked since I had added it before the outline. Now I see why some writers prefer this method when dropping a burner or a piece. With the black Molotov 1.5mm nib, I started implementing my cuts, deep cuts and slices, that grittiness. I love working on this step. It's a time to just flow with your letters and see how fly you can make them, since you now have a base to work off of, and deep down you know that this is it. You can't erase these lines. I added these details throughout all of the letters, even on the arrows and whips falling off. And I see it though, I see it now. On the bottom right side of the L, I missed it, a little piece of the 3D filling. Using a light brown basic paint marker, I added some thick ass bricks around the burner on the page. These were crazy thick, so I leveled them down with some zigzags on the corners of the page with the light brown Sharpie. This kinda helped. What really helped tone everything down, and together with the splats and realistic bricks, I added using a darker brown Sharpie. I was really digging the browns that I brought into play. I feel like they smoothed everything out. With a white Molotov 1.5mm nib, I started adding my shines onto the left side of each letter. I added the lines a bit thicker this time, like if they were a detail. This was real fly. I felt like it would look good since the letters were real thick in some areas. They had enough width for thicker details. In some areas though, I did keep the lines slim and simple. This was mostly where the cuts, deep cuts, and slices came into play. I added a couple stars around the letters and a quick splat from a distance. I had to make it glisten real quick. I also added some speed lines real quick inside of the 3D using a shock blue Molotov. I didn't really see any enhancement though. Finally, I moved on to my tags and threw up some people showing support. I appreciate y'all, always. And with the navy blue Molotov 1.5mm nib, I threw myself up, the new year, the emblem, and fellow writer, Flow. Salute, bro. This was a finished product for y'all. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. I had a real good flow with this one, no pun intended. For those of you waiting to be featured on the channel, I'm gonna be dropping handstyle session number 1, and I'm gonna be throwing all you guys up. Keep an eye out for that. If anyone wants to get in contact with me to give me some feedback or to talk that graph talk, y'all can reach me at letrasworldwide@gmail.com. Until next time, keep writing. Peace.